Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the farm and how it even came about, this farm?
Yeah, basically Michael Birch, family grew up in the village. His grandmother was born above the shop. He had local family, and the village started falling into disrepair, the pub and everything else, and he felt quite bad. So he wanted to invest, and he bought the pub, the chip shop, and then he's bought the corner shop and renovated to amazing high standards. And part of the manor, which he wants to turn into a hotel, and what he then bought was the animal farm. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, and they bought this land here. This was, what I'm going to say, just arable, and then they landscaped it, and then over the time things have progressed. But the whole thing is about a journey, so people staying in the manor will go on a journey, so they'll be able to walk around, see where their food's grown. They can go foraging, they can go for classes, they can go cooking in the potting shed. So it immerses them within what they're doing, not just I'm sitting down having a really nice meal. The executive chef really wants to promote, if you go to a really posh restaurant, you could have wild mushrooms on a little mossy log where you sat down, but he wants you to sit on a mossy log eating wild mushrooms in the woods. That's a whole experience, so that's part of what we do. And then we had obviously a chance for Market Garden to grow vegetables to supply the pub, the shop, the manor, and hopefully eventually veg boxes for the community, local community, because this is a community base. We want people to embrace it rather than be against it. And then Josh come and everything is been taken off. I worked with Josh before in a big ornamental place, and then he asked me to come and work here. So
Cool.
Here I am, because I got taught by him. So if anyone's going to understand Josh's ways, it's me. So that's why I'm here.
Cool.
And that's how we are growing and learning day by day. The start with working with yourselves was to utilise the bacteria to process and break down all our food waste from the pubs, our garden waste, to break it down into multiple structures that the plants and insects can eat really well.
Cool.
So, obviously with yourselves, we started off with the very basic, buying your EM solution with molasses. We built our own brew tank, which was a aquarium heat, and basically we brew our own EM in here.
Okay. Your design with your tank is very good. We've actually taken some tips off you as well.
There's about 3 times with different things, and then just because we had a lot of fluctuations with the temperature.
Yeah.
So we've got obviously the insulation on it as well. That did help.
Yeah.
But we get some really good results.
Cool.
That's always been very positive. Once brewed, it stays in here, and then we use the solutions obviously for our bokashi, but we also use it as part of our feeding and maintenance spray on the whole area. So we put it in as part of our spray solution, which we are finding that by putting that bacteria onto the soil and plants, it's waking up the other bacteria in the soil. So we're getting some quite positive, and it's well known now across the gardening that you can actually wake up soil by increasing that bacteria. One wakes another one because it's interested, they talk to each other. It's baffling. But again, it's Mother Nature, and this is why I like it, because all it is Mother Nature, and we're tweaking it.
So I personally, and this is why I like coming to see you, is that EM is part of your story, but also I know you have a cupboard full of stuff. Do you mind going through some bits of the IMOs and etc.? That would be cool, because actually it's really important for people to understand that actually this is not the process, this is part of a process. And one thing that I've learned from yourself is that we obviously sell this product as a product off the shelf, but you have now designed it as part of your system to incorporate the EM, but also some other bits. So do you mind going through some?
No, not at all. I mean, we basically use your EM on every spray application. Even if we're just irrigating, like potatoes, we'll put EM to help with blight. Yeah. That combat. So it is used through a lot. Well, every solution I make up to spray out, it always has EM in.
And the reason for that?
It's to increase the bacteria. It's obviously to knock down the bad bacteria.
Yeah.
So that's the balance. So by spraying it, we keep down blight, the fungal.
And this is what we'll look at later on, obviously,
Yeah.
with what yourself and Josh have created here with your natural kind of aspect in gardening.
Yeah.
But also, kind of understanding that, one part won't do everything, and actually having everything in process.
Yeah.
But you do have some fails as well. It's not just
it's
not just the positives.
Yeah.
There are
It's
some
learning
negatives.
in progress, because you're working with Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And she can always throw the weather, or extreme temperatures, cold, and things like that. So we have had failures. We've had some really good successes with the Bokashi, which I'll explain in a minute. Those different processes.
Yeah. And this is the thing that I like about yourself and Josh, is that when you talk about this, you also talk about failures, but the failures are good because you learn from it.
Yeah. What I'm going to say, we've learned so much, even from the basis of making the brew.
Yeah.
Because the first one took so long because the fluctuation of the night temperature in the little porta cabin, which we had originally, just didn't allow it to become active enough.
And I what I like about this is that I've seen, going from what you had.
Yes.
To what you now have. I appreciate it's a development and you have to start somewhere, but this has obviously helped with your brewing, etc. Having somewhere warmer makes a difference, and also modifying to actually do it. Can we have a look in your cupboard?
Yeah, of course you can. The reason we have a reservoir in the middle, so we can make solutions up. We can make it, and that will stay for about 2 weeks in here. And then basically put the towel on because you would walk into it. So then we can put it into we've got 3 different sprayers. Okay, we've got the knapsack, we use a lot, which is very good for smaller areas. We have a 98 litre battery one there. And then what I'll do is I'll pull out the big boy. We've got a 200 litre petrol driven aerator.
And you'll see later on the reason why you need the big boy, because actually you have how many acres here?
I think we got 11 acres.
11 acres now.
Yeah, it's 11 acres in total.
So you have a lot of area.
Yes, especially for the orchard. So basically we can make our brews up, put it in there and then just use it, so we can use this. That's the reason we built this into it. So the other part we use is natural feeds for plants. So with the stage of every plant, it's the same as every living object. You have a baby, and then it's a teenager, then it's an adult, fertility, and then they die. So when commercially you fertilize and use chemical fertilizers, you give that plant a bang load of fertilizer right at the beginning. Well, we wouldn't give a 6-month toddler steak and chips as it is, as we would. You wouldn't give your dog 3 months' food in one day. Yeah. But that's what the chemicals do. So what we've worked, which is the Korean natural farming method, is we ferment different plants for different reasons. So all the plants are collected from the farm, and basically we mix. We can pick, like when the first shoots of brambles come out, really green, lush. We go around picking a load of them up, we mix them with equal quantities of sugar. Now, sugar draws all the nutrients, enzymes out of those, and we ferment it for about 14 days. So basically you end up with a liquid that has all those really fast growing, which brambles do. Okay, so that becomes a really effective food for plants because it's got the enzymes for growing, it's got the resistance from obviously everything because they are so hard. So what we do with the EM spray, we've got about 8 things we put into our sprays, and that is part of it. So different stages. So like we've got a beetroot one, which we would different stages. So when it's an adult and it's maturity, it's setting its seed, it's putting its fruits on, as we say. So we will give a beetroot a spray just before it's setting its big taproot. So basically everything in there has got all the enzymes and nutrients that plant wants at that time.
And this is what I like about your system, is that you're understanding that actually the best way to inoculate what you have is actually using the inoculation that's already in nature in your own farm.
Yeah, because it survived in the temperature, and any bacteria, because this is obviously safe to, because it's only in sugar, but it's open to bacteria. So it will have the natural bacteria from those leaves, every sort of good bacteria. And that's why EM helps us keep that good bacteria balance up. So we would go, chickweed is another weed that grows really quick. So we would use that at the seedling stage. So we would make a solution up and then we would spray those seedlings. So that has got, again, fast nutrients, quick growing, and a different stage. And we also do it with flowers, so vegetable flowers. So when a plant's coming into flower, we can make a spray. Again, it's giving all the nutrients it wants there and then. It's like us when we got a headache, we take a tablet then. Yeah. You don't take tablets 2 weeks before, just in case you get a headache. And that's I try to make it simple.
The interesting thing is I'm looking at some of the dates on here. You've got some 21s, etc. So you definitely over time you try and do it season by season, instead of just going, this year 2020, that's going to be the only one I use. Actually, every year is different. And I think you probably find with these inoculations, they do smell very different every year. Because
There's different things. Climate, when I'm picking it might be in a sunny morning, so there might be more sugars in it. It might be in a dewy morning, so there's probably more bacteria on the leaves. All those sort of things change it. So we do. I haven't made any this year because we had a lot of stock to use up. But some have been really good, some haven't. We also go and collect seaweed from the local beaches. We do the same principle with sugar, enzymes. That is more of just a general, but it's very high in minerals. Which obviously a lot of our soil is deficient.
So I think the original project with you was firstly to regenerate what was very well used land.
It was ryegrass, it was pasture, really not. There was very high bacteria count, nothing really, no fungi, such and such. But by using these solutions and the EM and IMO, Indigenous Microorganisms, which I'll come on to next, basically what we're trying to create in all our vegetable beds is a forest floor. If you walk through a forest floor and kick it, you see all the microfibers, you see all that life. Okay, so all those leaves that fall down, if there wasn't the bacteria and fungi, in 10 years you wouldn't see the trees because they would just build up and build up. So what we do in our veg beds, we breed bacteria, as in say the EM. So we do IMO, which is more of the fungi. So basically everything we grow, we cut, and we drop back on that bed. Just breaking that conventional, we used to take it away and knock down. And
it makes me laugh because the old-fashioned way of farming was actually to think about I need to get rid of this because it's a waste. Take it off site and then bring in fertilizers in. We both smile when we think about this because it sounds insane, but we're actually not processing something that could be used because as a human we think it's waste, but actually in nature there's no such thing as waste.
Well, I'll show you the windrow, which would be again we use with the EM, which would be the next process of the large amount of products we have on this farm that we need to utilise. So going back to the soil and everything else. So the other things we grow is indigenous microorganisms.
I love this.
This is basically what we do is we find a really old woodland. We found a local one that's really ancient oak. So you need oak trees, beech trees. Okay, that's where you get a majority of the fungi growing underneath. So basically what we do is we cook rice al dente, cool it, and then we've got boxes. So these are our boxes. So it's untreated wood. This is old oak when they ripped out the manor. So we utilised it, drilled holes in it. So basically what we do is we third fill this with al dente cold cooked rice. Now the reason we use rice is really effective. It's a superfood, super starchy, super carbohydrate. We're trying it with our own grown wheat. Not having a great success, so we're still playing with it. But the rice works. So basically, we put this rice, and then we got a fly mesh, just because we obviously don't want flies laying eggs and maggots and turning it through. And then my little friends are rodents because they love rice. Well, they make a nest in it. They eat the rice and then make a nest in it. So we now put covers on it. So basically, and then we find a lovely place in the woodlands where you know there's a lot of activity, as in the microfibers, all that growth, fungi, mycelium. And then I'll show you a picture. So there's the rice, and then the stages. The reason we don't cook the rice fully, it stays longer. If you overcook it, it goes putrid really quickly because obviously it hasn't got no structure. So
this is from Korean.
in Korean natural farming, if I can show you. And then basically we find a little place, we bury it, we put a half a flower pot over the top just to keep the rain off, and then we backfill it. If you find any logs around or branches that have obviously got a lot of fungal growth, we put it against it. And then the next stage is up to 10 days, and basically what you do is you put your hand underneath, and if there's the fungi and growth there, it gets very warm. Then you have to process it within 20 minutes to half an hour. So basically you have to take sugar with you and scales because you need to put equal quantities with that rice with sugar. But this is showing you what we get. That's the rice we take out. So this is all the mycelium, completely growth through there. And again, I can show you, as you can see, we're around the rice.
So this is actually a really simple process and something that's quite ancient in respect to how we do it.
It is, again, so again, we're tweaking it. So basically we bring it back here. So we would have mixed it with the sugar and then we put it in jars. And basically when you put the sugar, draws the moisture out, which puts it all based, it's a status, puts it to sleep until we're ready to use it. And so that's IMO 2. IMO 3 is we've got a cedar box in here that basically what we do is we get bran, we get oats and wood chip. So if we say we put 10 kilos of each, 30 kilos, we put it into the bin. We take about 2 handfuls of this, that's all. And then I make a solution with the sugars and the EM to push up the moisture. So again, they all wake up. So they got more bran, they got more carbohydrates with the wheat and everything else. And basically it starts off really cool, but it then shoots up as the activity goes up and up and up to about 120. It will go higher. It's like wrestling a bear because you have to turn it to cool it. So once it gets to 120 Fahrenheit, you need to cool it because it will cook itself because that's completely a natural environment for it to be in. It would never have that much carbohydrate. You know, it might be a dead pigeon fell down with some wheat and that. That's as much. They wouldn't have literally 20 kilos in one area. So you have to really control it. And then once it's eaten and settled, it drops back down again. So then you've got that 30 kilos of highly inoculated material. Then what you do at IMO 4, you put 30 kilos of soil, and then you put more solution in with it, which is again a bit more moisture, a bit more food because the sugars. It happens again. It's a shorter period, but then you end up with 60 kilos of highly inoculated material that then you sprinkle on the beds and then cover. So those again will go into there and help break down everything.
So I presume when your forest is established, you'll be doing that same process here and trying to create that.
You always keep adding, you know, because where I find certain indigenous microorganisms live in different parts. So you'll get ones living by a stream that are really used to wet, horrible, muddy, they survive. So if you can make a solution, so they are going to survive in the wintry, wet autumns, where the ones that you might have got at the top of a hill that are really dry and stony, don't like it wet, they go to sleep. So if you can get different ones from different places, you can have that complete balance. And what we also do is we make biochar. Now biochar is a part burn, but like they do, a tree struck by lightning burns, half burns and then falls to the ground. Now, if you look at the molecular structure of biochar, it's just full of microscopic tunnels. Bacteria and fungi use it as homes, hotels. So when it's had no food, say it's a certain food source, this bacteria fungi like, it's not here, you go to sleep in the biochar. It's the same with bacteria, you know, when the food comes to the source or the weather changes. So by having that whole process that isn't normally in a forest, and that's where you build that basis.
It does make me laugh when we talk about this. Actually, we're just trying to imitate nature, but humans.
All I said, all we're doing is imitating, you know, Mother Nature's been doing it for millions of years, but tweaking it for us.
And all we're trying to do is learn
Yeah.
from Mother Nature to come back to this situation.
Yeah, and she's like failure, she just completely changes everything and starts again.
Yeah, that's very true. So you use I'd like to look in your containers in your bokashi coffee grinds, etc.
But coffee.
For coffee.
But coffee, it's called.
Yeah. This is trademarked.
This is putting Andrew out of the job now. We used to have the bokashi brand, and because we want to try and make it so in-house, everything waste and recyclable as we can, we try different methods. We tried wood chip and it didn't quite right. So I tried the coffee grounds from the coffee, you know, from the pub. We found it actually worked quite well.
So can you explain that process of how you make the coffee?
Yep. So basically, we put airtight containers in the back of the pub, so that when they have their coffee grounds, they tap them out. Airtight goes back on. But when that bucket is put up there, I always put some EM at the bottom, so there's already that process started. When it fills up, it comes back here. We do a 2-stage system. So throw the bucket in very clean, and then I mix it with EM, and that's a week old. I only did that last week. So that's just pure coffee grounds with EM. It smells lovely.
God, I can smell it from here.
So basically that's that stage one there. So we keep that in an airtight container again. And then we have a long-term barrel. And this barrel here has been here for 6 months. So we leave that in that barrel probably 2-3 weeks. And then again, we use it as airlock, so the gases can come out. This probably won't be, oh no, it's done quite well as well. So that had, last week, had the bucket that was full up previous. Does that make sense? So basically what we can use this for is we can use it instead of bran, we can put it in our potting mixes. So we're obviously inoculating our own compost when we're potting on. So we're trying to encourage good bacteria, get rid of all the nasties. I'm going to say at the bottom, I know Mike wants to take a sample of that.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what microbial
Yeah, that'd be really good. But also there is goodness within coffee grounds and another organic material that will break down again and more food.
And that's the thing that, you know, when people talk about the cashew brand or when we're talking about kind of, you know, this system, sometimes I have to remind myself that it's not just one thing. Because if you have one thing, then so it has to work with other things.
Exactly. You know, you've got bacteria and fungi. You need them to work in balance, really.
Yeah.
For health. Well, for us, for growing vegetables.
Yeah.
And plants, you need that balance.
Yeah.
Because the annuals basically get fed by bacteria, fungi feed the perennials, like that's getting in the trees.
And this is the thing with generally with farming is that because you normally got monoculture in to crops, and it doesn't work very well because as a system, nature doesn't work like that.
No.
And what farmers are now realising is that yes, you can still continue on with the monoculture, and you know there are farmers out there that do very well out there, but they're never going to have an increase in yield, and especially nutritional value of that. There's not going to be diversity because there's not the diversity there.
That plant each year takes the same nutrients, and they clear it away, so that depleting more fertilizers, and then there's weeds that come in that are only going to really, you know, horrible soils, which are really hard because they're tough. So there's more pesticides and there's more, you know, insecticides, and there's the whole thing just the soil deteriorates, you know, naturally. It's just It just baffles me why it happens. When you have so much material, which I'll show you with the windrow,
Yeah.
that you have material, you can turn into a very useful material to put back on there with no hardly any